Item C, Z 2019-1666, continuation of Plainfield Garages and Storage LLC, requesting a special permit for construction and operation of a concrete batch plant at 91-105 Plainfield Pike Road, Plainfield, map 17, block 36, lot 33, I-1 zoning district. Was closed.
Yes.
Okay, so the floor is open for discussion. So any items for the board to discuss on this application?
I want to understand the hours of operation of the building. It's not making it 7 a.m. start.
This was the concrete plant, not the stone crushing. Stone crushing is continued to February. So this was the first public hearing at the beginning of the meeting, and that seemed a while ago. Okay, hearing no points of discussion on this application, I'll entertain a motion on the application.
Make a motion.
Okay, I have a motion from John to approve.
I'll second it.
I have a second from Sean.
Is that with the suggested conditions also?
Looking at the concrete. I believe they said they would include. If you want to amend, you can certainly amend.
Yeah, okay, I'll amend my motion to state that the applicant will modify the stormwater basin to ensure peak flows are not increased to 100-year storm, add that to the Mylar. And then the engineer will provide staff with sign plans and calculations.
Okay, so I have a motion with those conditions to approve. Do it.
Okay, yep. And engineering fees to be paid prior to receiving zoning permit. The total is $2,418.75.
I'm just going to read the suggestions into the record, just to be clear. Suggested conditions of approval. Truck route to be state roads except where there is no alternative. Town engineer conditions. Applicant will modify stormwater basin to ensure peak flows are not increased through the 100-year storm. Add to Mylar. The applicant will modify the storm basin calculations to begin the detention volume calculations at the elevation of the low-level outlet. Engineer will provide stamped and signed plans and calculations. Mylars to be recorded. Engineering fees to be paid prior to receiving zoning permit. Total $2,418.75. So those are the suggested conditions. And if you wanted to amend your...
I will amend my motion to include the positions as stated.
Okay, so a motion to approve with the conditions as stated. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Sean, second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Application is approved with those conditions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item D, Z 2019-1669, continuation of AG Realty Plus, requesting a site plan review for modifications to approved site plan on property located at 650 Norwich Road, Plainfield, map 2P, block 36, lot 30A, C2 zoning district.
All right, two-part. Good evening again. My name is Daniel with J&B Civil Engineers. I'm here tonight on behalf of Peter Fleming, the owner of Plainfield Agway. I suspect you're all familiar with the Agway. It's located on Route 12, right across from Better Value. There is an approved site plan for this lot. And again, Mr. Fleming's business is doing well. We'd like to expand a little bit. There's not too much on the first sheet. It's a location map, some parking calculations. I'll jump right to the second sheet, the site plan. So I'm showing the property here is outlined in red. There is a pocket of wetlands just to the east off-site, and there's a wetland buffer just barely, almost approaches our property, but not quite. Therefore, there should not be any wetland permits required for this work. His existing buildings are shown here in yellow. The main building, a greenhouse, a cashier, and then this front section is a garden center. Then there's the parking that wraps around it in an L shape. And finally, towards the southeast corner, some bins that are used to store mulch, crushed stone, that sort of product. So now what we're proposing, what Mr. Fleming is requesting, is to expand the garden center. And so we're going to expand that both to the north and east, north and west, 18 feet to the north and 9 feet to the west. Part of that expansion will be over the building setback. As such, there will not be any structures or roofs, just tables filled with plants and that sort of thing. There will be a retaining wall constructed, again, right at the edge here, to hold back that slope. The site drops off to the north. There's a drainage swale that runs along the north side of the property, and all the water basically flows north and is dumped out to an existing detention pond towards the rear of the property. Some of the other things he wants to do, expand the bins that are used for storage of gravel and sand and move them more to the center of the property, and build a three-sided pole barn, approximately 40 feet deep, 120 feet wide, again, to store various things that come on pallets, sand, salt. Right now, if you go to the site, he just has stuff stored everywhere. And he really like to keep the elements off that. He'll also improve traffic flow, again, around to these bins, people coming in and trying to get mulch with their pickup trucks. He's going to remove his existing propane tank that he uses for heat, put in 4 smaller tanks. And there will be a retaining wall, small retaining wall built, again, towards the southeast corner.
Okay, any staff comments on this application or site plan review?
I did have some. I went out to do an inspection on the site, and certain things were not done according to plan back in I think 2012, the original rule. So one of my comments was, and this doesn't have to do with the original plan, but it appears that you put the 2 storage containers up by the pole barn.
Correct, yep.
Okay, could you just label those for the Mylar?
Of course, of course.
It just wasn't clear that those were in fact the containers.
Okay, sure.
So with my site visit, I observed that the plan called for 4 2.5-inch and 3 caliber hardy native shade trees. One of those would have been eliminated with the expansion of the greenhouse back in 2015, I believe. But there's still 3 that were never planted. So we'd like to get those planted now.
Absolutely.
Also, along the southern boundary, we require for a vegetative buffer for anything that's residential, which it is residential over there. It called for 5 rows of Christmas trees to be planted, 1 row being removed every year and replanted. That was never done, so that screening was never planted. There's also sheds in that area now where it's required. Also, sheds are encroaching on the neighboring property. So.
Mr. Fleming has a deal worked out with that neighbor. They have some kind of handshake agreement or trade worked out where, as Ryan pointed out, there are a number of sheds stored just off the property here. There's a stone wall, which you would think is the property line, but it's not. It's actually about 30 feet more to the north. And again, Mr. Fleming has some kind of deal worked out where the neighbor says, yes, you can store some of your sheds that are for sale here.
It's up to the commission if they'd like to enforce that, or since the neighbor is in agreement, we can let it go.
As long as the owner understands that that is not the purpose of that property and can be moved at any time.
Of course. Yeah, unfortunately, Mr. Fleming could not attend the meeting, but he has authorized me to say that he's perfectly fine with planting all those trees.
Any other items for discussion on this site plan review? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion on the application.
I'll make a motion to approve with the conditions that were made out.
Okay, so I have a motion from Sean to approve with the conditions of the,
Actually, no, because they have a gentleman's agreement on the shed, so those, how we gonna,
You can just take, it was never enforced, so you can not include that planting of the Christmas trees. I would like to see the 3 shade trees put in.
Me too.
essentially, it is not zoned for the purpose. So if the owner of the residential property said move it today, they have to move it today.
Of course.
If they didn't move it, they would come to us, it'd be a violation of their permit, and then Ryan would do a cease and desist.
Absolutely.
That's pretty much.
so just leave that bullet point out? Or do we put the bullet point in and they just continue doing what they're doing? That's a comment, right?
Correct. So essentially, if we're not requiring them to put in a vegetated buffer on that side of the property. So there were 2 areas to put vegetated buffers. So the shade trees was on one side of the property, and then the trees on the other side of the property.
Yeah, the south side, there was going to be a row of Christmas trees. And then the other shade trees, I think, were dispersed throughout the parking islands, or
2 in the front,
2 in the front here.
and then 1 would have been going where the greenhouse was expanded. That was approved by, yes, it would have been right there. So we don't need that one. The third one goes along the southern boundary. I'd have to check the plans, but there's a third one on the southern boundary.
Okay.
So the condition would be to label the storage container and to plant the 3 shade trees.
I'll make a
Three out of the 4 original.
I'll make a motion to approve the application with the conditions that they label storage containers on the front, right? And they have to install 2 shade trees on the front of the building.
2 along the front, and then there was also one on the southern
My
boundary.
condition is 2 on the front.
Okay.
I don't care what the southern boundary is, right?
All right, so I have a motion to approve with those 2 conditions. Do I have a second? I'll second. Roz, second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, application is approved. Moving on to item Z, which we did close that public hearing, right? Okay. Z 2019-1670 of Sammy P. Inc. requesting special permit for earth products excavation and processing on property located on Millbrook Road, Plainfield, map 10, block 17, lot 5, industrial 1 zoning district. Items for discussion on this application.
Just remember, this one does have a waiver on it, and also suggested conditions of approval.
Okay.
Waiver was for the wells, right?
Correct. Because per the regulations, the monitoring wells are to be 2-inch ID PVC with locking metal lids, and the applicant used 4-inch PVC without the metal lids. So if the results are the same, we could consider it equivalent and grant the waiver. Suggested conditions of approval: all truck traffic to utilize Millbrook Road to Norwich Road, Route 12. No use of town Plainfield roads aside from Millbrook Road allowed unless there is no state 5 cents.
I will make a motion to approve with the stated conditions. Conditions are stated by Carla and by Ryan. And also waiving the requirement of the 2-inch wells in lieu of the fact that chlorine wells were installed.
That should be voted on independently.
Okay. All right.
The waiver independently? Okay, so I would suggest waiver
Let's
first.
do the waiver first.
Okay.
I make a motion to allow the waiver for the replacing the 2-inch wells with chlorine.
Those do not have one currently.
Really not necessary. We're going to get the same results for groundwater.
Okay.
The data is.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second on the waiver. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, waiver is approved. Moving on to the application motion.
Yep, I will restate that. Motion to approve with the conditions stated earlier by Carla that were made by Ryan with the exclusion of one regarding general fund 5.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Sean. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, application is approved with conditions. Thank you. Item F, Z 2019-1671, continuation of Stephen Stein, requesting a site plan review for parking area expansion and resurfacing on property located at 681 Norwich Road, Plainfield, map 2P, block 30, lot 4, C2 zoning district. Is there someone for the applicant?
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Mark Reynolds, I'm a professional engineer for the applicant. Nothing has changed with this plan in relation to the one you looked at last time. It's a small site on Beach 12 at the intersection with Fifth Street. The application is for resurfacing an area here with millings for the tenant's use, only it's not for public use. And we talked about how narrow the access is in here. It's not going to be set up for turning movement. It's for public use. It's not going to be tenant. There's just elongated spaces here for paving equipment. And we're requesting a waiver of a vegetative buffer. In lieu of that, there's a proposed wooden stockade fence around the property. I've read the staff report. It adequately characterizes the application, and the conditions that I see there are all agreeable to the applicant. So I'm happy to answer the questions.
Any additional comments from staff?
No, just to briefly go over it, the parking area behind the building that's proposed is going to be for employee and truck parking for the business. It's not going to be for customers. That is stated on the plan. My comments say everything else.
So the suggested conditions of approval include camper behind the building is to be removed from the site within 30 days of approval. The site plan is to be printed on Mylar and submitted to the Planning and Zoning Office for commission signature. Applicant must record in the clerk's office within 30 days of approval. Use and compliance permit for business is required within 30 days of approval. All fencing shall be in place prior to being granted the use and compliance permit, and the location map at 1,000 scale is to be added to the Mylars.
Yeah,
All right. So any items for discussion?
Make a motion to approve.
The waiver request of the buffer.
Sorry.
That's okay. So instead of the 25-foot vegetated buffer, there is a 6-foot fence. So we just have to waive if that's appropriate.
I'll make a motion that we waive the requirement for 25-foot vegetated buffer in lieu of a 6-foot fence.
Okay, I have the motion by John for the waiver. Second by Ross. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the waiver is approved. And then motion on the site plan application.
I will make a motion for approval with the conditions on this that were as stated by Carl.
Okay, I have a motion to approve with conditions as outlined.
I'll second it.
Second by Sean, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, application is approved with conditions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item G, Z 2019-1673 of Benjamin and Kelly Burdick requesting a special permit for an accessory apartment on property located at 16 Main Street, Central Village, map 1CV, block 85, lot 33, C2 zoning district. Items for discussion. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion on the application.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. I have a second by Jared. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Application is approved. Thank you. Alright. Wait, no. Item H, Z 2019-1674 of Whitney Easton was continued to February. Item, H, that should be item I. Item I, Z 2019-1681 of Plainfield Materials was also continued to February. New business. Item A, Z 2019-1689 of Melissa Colley requesting special permit for a 20 by 24 addition to existing barn on property located at 114 Goshen Road, Moosup, map 31, block 61, lot 39, RA60 zoning district. Given this is a special permit, it requires a public hearing.
Make a motion to move the public hearing next month.
I have a motion to schedule public hearing in February. Second by Roz. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Public hearing scheduled for February. Item B, 2019-1694 of RC Conoyer Construction LLC requesting a 2-lot subdivision on property located on Spalding Road, Plainfield, map 26, block 11, lot 2B, RA60 zoning district. Does this also require a public hearing?
No, it does not.
Is the applicant here tonight?
You're filling in tonight.
Can't get enough of you guys. This is technically a 2-lot subdivision, but there is one house under construction. The house further to the south. This was just a little over 5-acre parcel. It was owned by the Zaras. I don't know if any of you remember that name. They owned the property for quite some time, and it was purchased by Mr. Cornier. So what he did, I'm going to grab my mic here because it's just easy to point. So he actually, there's this line over here that actually put this over to see a little bit better. The property he actually purchased from the Zaras was this dashed line here over, and then he looked to subdivide the property, even though he had enough land area to do that, he did not have enough contiguous buildable area to do so. So he agreed to a boundary line adjustment with Mr. Anderson next door that struck the line along the stone wall, and then from the end of the stone wall to this point here. So lot number 1 has a contiguous buildable area of 60,235 square feet. Lot number 2 has a contiguous buildable area of 60,185 square feet. So this lot right here, for lot number 1, the house is actually under construction right now. And lot number 2, we did receive permission from the Wetlands Commission to fill in a little portion of this runoff here. There's actually a pipe that comes from across Spalding Road from the east side, and from the hillside over there, it drains across this property. And for a while, it just sort of infiltrates into the soil, but it broke out again in this area here, kind of causing this overland runoff. We did actually do test pits in that area with the health department, and there were really no hydric soils there. There was just some overland runoff. So it was described in the soil report as an intermittent water course, which we're filling, and we're actually intercepting that water from that 12-inch pipe and constructing a swale along the northern boundary line and pretty much discharging it to the point that it discharges to right now. We do have approval by the Northeast District Department of Health. I know the town was copied on it back in November, but I grabbed a copy of it just in case you didn't have it in your records. But we are requesting a fee in lieu of open space instead of open space itself, because really there really aren't any areas per se of where we dedicated the open space. There's nothing contiguous that we'd be able to combine with, and the bulk of the lot not being developed is us into the wetlands. So if the commission finds it appropriate for the one lot subdivision, I believe that Greg and I have spoken to Ryan about it, and the price that you had set on the lots is typically $32,000.
$32,000 was the sale price a year or so ago.
Yeah.
So customarily, we've taken that number if it was recent. We are allowed to take up to 10% of the estimated value, or $3,200. However, one of the lots is already developed, so we typically take and split that in half of the lots. So $1,600, in my opinion, would be a fair amount for the fee in lieu of.
Is this a first cut, or is this part of a previous division?
The 5-acre lot was actually the first cut. So we're here before you because this is actually subdivision of that 5-acre parcel.
This wasn't it previously, the first cut is free? I didn't remember a reduction
Yes,
for.
that whole area that's on the map was the first free split.
Yeah.
And they built the house to the left, and now they're looking to subdivide the house to the right.
I mean, the way that the regulations read, it says, the commission may require a fee in lieu of open space. So, I mean, I guess it's certainly your preference as to, whether or not you want to accept a fee, or if you feel as though, subdivision of a single lot is not necessary. I think the way that the regulations are written, it certainly gives you the flexibility to do as you see it as.
And this is not an appraisal, this was actual sale. What was the date on that?
It was sometime over the summer of 2018, I believe.
I had figured that it would be between $30,000 and $40,000, and sold for $32,000. So.
Okay, so the suggested condition is to, the Mylar is to have the fee in lieu of posted in the notes to be paid at time of transfer. So the commission would just have to determine what amount to put on that, given staff recommendation of the $1,600. Are there any other questions regarding this? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with the conditions, citing the fee in lieu of open space at 1,600 for staff.
I have a second. Motion by Sean with conditions and the fee in lieu of at $1,600, and the second by Roz. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, application approved with conditions. Item C, Z 2020-1701, Sammy P. It requires a special permit. I'll entertain a motion to schedule. I have a motion by Roz to schedule, a second by John. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, moving on to reviewing and acting on the minutes of December 10. Did anyone have any modification? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion on the minutes. I have a motion by John to approve as written, a second by Roz. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Very good. Correspondence?
We have a correspondence.
All right, no correspondence. Report from zoning enforcement?
I knocked her out doing that this morning.
Okay, so no report this month. And then Mary Ann did submit, the town received its 50% reimbursement for the Annex SHPO grant on the 3rd of this month. It was $9,500. The EDC is working on a plan to facilitate economic growth in the town in accordance of the recommendations made in the Plan of Conservation and Development. And the Eastern Connecticut Land Bank will be meeting with CCOG tomorrow morning to introduce the land bank and solicit interest from the southeast portion of the state. So that's the Planning and Zoning Department report. And last item, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion by Sean, second by John. All those in favor? Aye. Any